everyone, and welcome to another Disclosure in the Media. This is our Christmas episode. I'm here with Ryan Polenkarts once again, and we're going to go through some of the different elf types in Elder Scrolls. That might not seem too Christmassy, but close enough. So, Ryan, I know there's a lot to do, so why don't you go at it then?
Yeah, so I mean, Elder Scrolls is kind of the closest thing we can get to at Christmas with the two topics that we cover here. Especially because Fallout is a post-apocalyptic role-playing game, and Elder Scrolls does have elves. They're just not the elves that you would expect for Christmas. Though there's one race that I guess you could consider the kind of Christmas elf size, though their culture is not anywhere near that. So we'll get right into it. And this is just an overview of the play of some of the elven races and just kind of their designs. I'm going to go into more of them in depth when we get to their pictures, but we're going to start here with the Altmer. So the Altmer are the high elves. The Altmer means high elf in the elven tongue in the Elder Scrolls games. They are descended from the elves that left Eldmeris and settled in the Somerset Isles. They are extremely wise, long-lived. Their lifespans can be up to like 500 years. And master mages in them are virtually unaging and like don't die. They have, however, they're also known to be fairly bigoted and have a mentality where like these other races are younger than us and we need to control them. Though not all, most of them don't have that, but like the ruling class tend to have that. So oftentimes they will go to war or try to impose their will or their views on other races. They're native to the Somerset Isle, which I should probably get a picture of Tamriel to show those regions. Just because that makes things easier.
Okay.
Somerset Isle is down here. It's this big island and this smaller island. But the Altmer also have colonies all over the breadth of Tamriel ever since the Merethic era, which is what we call that is before the first era and is basically the time of elven hegemony over Tamriel. When the elves left Eldmeris and began to settle all over, because basically the Altmer or the Eldmer, which is what they call their ancestors, but most likely is exactly the same race. It's just ancestor worship that they call a different race name for, settled all over. And so pretty much every other elven race is a descendant lineage of these ones, even though a lot of them don't recognize it. There's only a few.
That's very interesting. Yeah. Oh, sorry for interrupting, but yeah, that's very interesting because that's how the Orions are. They spawned a lot of some of these different elven races out there, and the Eldmer seem to be the ones that characterize some of the Orions or Fomorian forms in history. Just like during the times of the Tuathan Fomorian Wars, essentially the Fomorians created the Tuathan, which then revolted against them. So they look very similar to one another. These guys look like a little like the Tuatha, a little like the Orions, but these guys in attitude are pretty close to what some of the Orion stage ones are in reality. The vain type of attitude and some of the domineering attitude, very close in their appearance and in their attitude.
During the events of Skyrim, it is a lot more of this militant faction that is like that attitude. However, throughout the story, there are very good members of this race, but there's also very evil members of this race. Most notably, the good and evil are most personified by two contemporaries of the same time during the Second Era. Menamarco, the King of Worms, who is like the main bad guy in the Mages Guild questline in Oblivion, and the main bad guy, the second main bad guy in the Elder Scrolls Online. And then Vanus Galarian, who is the founder of the Mages Guild proper, who was basically like this master wizard who was like, we need to start teaching other people how to do magic. Or at least have like a community where mages can go to get like mage-based things. So the next race is the Bosmer.
Hmm.
They are the Wood Elves also. Now, their history does branch off in the Merethic era, but they do know that they were once High Elves. And Valenwood is literally right across the water. And it's right here. It's in southern Tamriel. It is characterized by just large woodland forests. And an interesting thing about the Bosmer is they are subject to something called the Green Pact. So when they became the Bosmer, they made an agreement with the forest to live in a manner befitting of the forest. So they cannot take from nature like plant material. They have to be carnivorous while within their borders. Outside of their borders, they don't. Outside of Valenwood itself, they can act however they want. But within Valenwood, they're subject to multiple things. So when they agreed to this Green Pact, they were changed into the Bosmer. They became shorter. Some are only like 4 or 5 foot tall max. Now, there's some that are taller, but most are like very short. Especially if you play Oblivion, you can see it the most in Oblivion, where like Bosmer are considerably shorter than every other race.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're a fascinating race because I ran across a race of elves that was exactly like them. It was even a similar name. They called themselves Bosmaqui. It was slightly different, and they said they had 2 forms: a shorter, more decrepit form, and a taller, not a taller one, but one roughly the same size as in the game sequence, where they were a woodland elf and then basically live off the land. The story differs slightly in some of their origins, but I've run across them as well. They are a very kind race, from what I gather, and they're very, very nature oriented, very much like fairies and other fae.
The Bosmer are great archers, as well as they are good at stealth. One of the few things that they are allowed to take is dead wood to make bows. They're not allowed to cut down trees in their own borders, so a lot of the times they actually import fresh wood from other parts of Tamriel, because they're allowed to do woodworking, but they're not allowed to cut down living trees in their own borders. But they can cut down trees, and if they go to Cyrodiil, they can become a lumber mill. It's weird. They also are subject to the rule of cannibalism, which is basically anything you kill has to be eaten within 3 days in its entirety. So that is also including sentient races. So if another race invades Valenwood and a Bosmer kills a person, they have to eat that being in its entirety in 3 days.
Wow.
There's also a period like every like once an era, basically, called the Great Hunt, where they can like transform into these like beastly creatures and will go on like this mass hunt. It has nothing to do with Hircine, the Daedric Prince of the Hunt, as we know. It has to do with this Green Pact, which seems to be made with the spirits of the forest and not Hircine himself. So this is like, it's a very strange pact, and it's almost it's been written in the lore. It's also hard to like read up a lot on it because it's very vague in some of the things. But one of the other cool things about the Bosmer is they tend to have they're not as fair as the High Elves. They tend to have like the darker hair, the freckles, and some of them do have like grown horn, like antlers. It tends to only be females, and it tends to be only females from certain clans. But they do happen, and there's kind of no lore reason for it.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring that up because there is in Norse and Scandinavian mythology, there is a being called a Huldra or Huldir. And what the Vikings considered it to be was a being that would siphon energy or sexual energy off of people like a vampire. But I've run across both types, kind ones and not so kind ones. They tend to look alike, so you can't always tell except by intention. But they can also morph themselves into little orbital type of spheres or type of orbs or light orbs, like elusive fairies and other fairy types, because I believe they're related to different fairy types. But some elf races are. But this one, the holder have these horns that come up very much like the picture here. Some of them are short, some of them are taller, depending on, of course, everybody has slight differences in physiology, but and those guys, they tend to run around without clothes on. The only time you see them with any sort of garments on is if they're trying to shield themselves from certain vibrations. But they also have a tail as well, I've noticed. And this particular race with the horns looks very much like the Huldra do. And like I said, I have mixed reviews on them because they tended to not be so nice at times, and then I run across some kind ones. So they tend to go both ways. But with the Bosmer here, with the Bosma Kui type of elf, I've never really run across any with horns. But so it looks like they fused the two cultures in this particular case, especially also with the cannibalism thing and the thing with the meat. That's also interesting because there's another type of siren that's more associated with the mer, but it's a type of siren that also is very cannibalistic and very vampiric. In the old days, they would abduct sailors and basically cannibalize the different sailors, like pirates and all this other stuff. So they're more ocean oriented. So a lot of these races are related, and some have de-evolved into cannibalism, like some giants have. But they seem to have fused a couple of these groups together in this particular case.
Yeah, I mean, these guys, they're kind of what you think of when you think of like the woodland elf. I mean, even like they're the epitome of the woodland elf, whereas the other ones are the epitome of like the graceful elf.
Yeah.
So on to the next race, we've got the Dwemer. So yes, the Dwemer, or the dwarves in the Elder Scrolls, are an elven race. Now, most fantasy does not have dwarves as elves, so let's get into how they differ. They differed prior to the split of the high elves moving to from Eldmaris to the Somerset Isle. And that means they left directly from the Somerset Isle. They tend to have this palish blue skin. And Dwemer, translated in the Elven language, just means deep elves, which means they lived underground. The Dwemer tended to be stockier because they became masters of magic-based technology. So they built automatons. If you played any of the games in recent memory, you've gone to a Dwemer ruins and fought their automatons that still go through the halls. They're powered by soul gems, which is interesting because that means they're using soul-based energy to power their works. Generally, the soul gems used to power things are animal souls, though in their largest constructions, they have been known to use living souls. And in fact, Tiber Septim, when he activated the Numidium, is said to have used a dragon soul to power it. So,
yeah, these guys are very fascinating because these would probably, I would have to honestly say, would fit the closest possible Christmas theme in the Elder Scrolls. I'll explain because they're like the builders, they're inventors. Very much like you have Santa and his elves building the toys in a way, but also, ironically enough, this does have to do directly with Christmas in its own slightly indirect way, because of the fact these guys, I feel, were fashioned also off the dwarven races, the original dwarven race that helped Odin construct some of the gods' weapons, and also the Bifrost. I believe they were fashioned a little bit after them. But also the fact that it's the dwarves of the World of Wheels have this kind of look with some of their construction, with like they mix it with steampunk and Da Vincian type of look, along like with this Dwemer look. The reason I compare it to Santa Claus and the elves is because Odin essentially was the basis in some instances, along with the actual Saint Nicholas for Santa Claus. It essentially Santa is in his 8 reindeer and Odin is 8-legged horse, I believe. And then it goes from the dwarves building the weapons for the gods and the Bifrost to the elves building the toys for Santa. and they just mixed in Saint Nicholas's story with Odin's story, and there you have Santa Claus. So it's like this is essentially this is the closest you're going to get in Elder Scrolls to something Christmassy by a slight indirect path like that. So this is the closest you're going to get, folks.
The Dwemer. This is a few more examples of them because you don't really ever see them in their flesh in the games because you don't because they've been disappeared since the Merethic era or maybe very early First Era, but I believe it's still in the Merethic era when they disappeared, and they have yet to reappear. There is one that you can meet in Morrowind, but doesn't look like he can stand because he can't. He's got a type of disease, and he was outside of the plane of Mundus when the other dwarves disappeared. He was in Oblivion at the time, so he was spared from becoming part of what people believe is like a consciousness outside of reality. That they went to their own reality, but they also were highly logical. They didn't worship gods that were known by anybody. If they did, they weren't known to anyone else, and they often ridiculed other races for doing things that were religiously based. So they were like the ultimate atheists of the Elder Scrolls.
Yeah, it sounds like it. It sounds like also with the middle lady there, she looks very Syrian as well, like with some of the Syrian elves that are out there, the blue skin Syrian elves. And then in a lot of cases, they're very logical, but in some other cases, they're very spiritual. It depends on what clan that you're speaking of. And they also look kind of like what I call the Lancaneer look, where they're a type of elf that's more warrior based. They're more Spartan based, but they look like that too, where they're very brutal. But yeah, it's very interesting. They went logic, very much like Vulcans on Star Trek. They're very logic based. That's actually quite interesting.
Yeah, and on the battlefield, what was interesting when it's recorded in the writings because the Chimer, the predecessors to the Dark Elves, they recorded their wars with the dwarves. They had two major wars with the Dwemer, and they recorded how their armies were. And something cool about their armies, it was mostly automata, but with dwarven infantry. So they were using their robots, which many of them are great warrior things. Others are workers, clearly. Like the spiders are mostly workers, but the spheres and the centurions are clearly warrior, like weapons or guards. And their armies were known to be quick, and the dwarves, even though their populations were low, they could war endlessly because they could just keep making more of these automata. And they even had their own slave race, and we're going to go into that next. So, the Snow Elves. The Snow Elves were the elven inhabitants of Skyrim prior to the coming of the Nords during the early Merethic era. So, the Snow Elves do not have any memory of a time when they were High Elves, which means they probably left around the same time as the Dwemer prior to the elven exodus to the Somerset Isle.
Mm-hmm.
And what this means is that they don't have a memory of being any other race. In fact, Auriel or Akatosh in the religion, he was known to them as like a living being. So we don't know if he was an Eldmer, which is like what the High Elves call their ancestors, which is basically meaning any group that is referred to as an Aedra in like religious context. I think the leaders of the Eldmer would have been what we call the Aedra, and Auriel was known to them, and they worshipped him as a god, and he had like a whole chantry that you visit during the Dawnguard events in Skyrim. But they were a tall, fair elven race, and they decided when the Nords came that the Nords reproduced, well, the Needs, which were the proto-Nords, basically. Like if you think Nord, these are like the most ultimate Viking. They're like the Viking gods of the Nords, essentially. Mm-hmm. When they came, they saw them reproduce really quickly and were threatened and committed the genocide called when Iskramor and his two sons returned to the Need/Nord homeland of Atmora, they told the story of these treacherous elves that claimed to be friends, but then went to their city at night and slaughtered them. And he led back the 300 companions that waged this awful war that was essentially a genocide of the elves, where that ended with Solstheim being split from the rest of Tamriel, and these elves, their last princess was killed by their last warrior prince was killed by a young Nord girl who threw a rock. And then the survivors of the Snow Owls either retreated to the Chantry of Ariel, because it was hidden in a veil that you needed to pass through like a deep subterranean network to get to, or they went to the dwarves. So the Dwemer, being elves, the Dwemers had no reason to get involved with the war between the Snow Elves and the Proto-Nords, mostly because they had settlements as far as High Rock already by this point. But they did not have any reason to get involved in a war that was over about the ground above. Why would they care about who lives on the surface? But the Snow Elves went to these dwarven cities and were like, we just got our asses handed to us. Can we come in and get like weapons and supplies and go back in war? And the dwarves were like, we'll just let you move in with us. The dwarves were never known to be great at giving gifts, but they were like, but in Skyrim especially, the Dwemer, these were colonies of the Dwemer. They were not like the center of Dwemer culture. They were on the fringes of Dwemer culture. And they had just dug into a place called a big subterranean network that you can visit in Skyrim. I keep forgetting its name. Do you know where you have to go to get the Elder Scroll from? That like big cave where you can get in from multiple dwarven ruins.
Yes. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's like a hub. Yeah.
I forget the name of that place though.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna see if I can find it.
What I find also fascinating about the Snow Elves is they look a lot like the earlier Orion faction as well because of the whiter skin.
Okay, it's called Blackreach, and in Blackreach, they were able to find rare ore deposits, subterranean flora and fauna, mostly fungal, but there is other that wasn't. There were some like adapted surface plants in there. There's even dragons in there, which makes no sense because really there must have been in ancient days like other ways into Blackreach from the surface, but the Dwemer either sealed those or over the eons they just disappeared, and the dwarves built their cities into this place. And quickly it was realized we were going to need labor. So instead of going up there and kidnapping labor, they invited the Snow Elves in, brought them all into Blackreach, and fed them a fungus native to Blackreach. Now this fungus blinded them. And they turned them into a slave race. Over a long time, it blinded them. Not immediately, but going forward, it did. And by the time of the Dwemer disappearance, the Snow Elves had realized the betrayal of the Dwemer as their first few members started to go blind after a few generations of eating this shit, and they revolted. And so a bloody civil war was being waged underneath the feet of the Nords above, who had no idea what was going on, because the Dwemer were not big on trading with the Nords, and the Nords were not big on trading with the Dwemer, so they really didn't have any reason to get together. And in fact, the Eastern Dwemer and the Nords had fought a war, so why would they get in to trade with the D's? The Dwemer and Skyrim were not stupid enough to join that war, of course. But this war was going on, and one day the Falmer lines attacked, and the Dwemer weren't there. All they found were empty suits of armor and automatas. And over the centuries, they were able to figure out how to beat automata back, or at least hold them at bay long enough to create subterranean network cities themselves. So now these corrupted Snow Elves called the Falmer, what we see on the left, are the masters of a lot of the deepest parts of Old Dwarven runes.
Yeah, and that's really interesting about them is they even resemble a little bit of the dangerous scamps a tiny bit, but it's like in other parts of the game. But also, I was told that by several of the elven races that I've been talking to. There's one in Greenland that made contact with me one time that said that over a period of time there was another race of theirs that de-evolved away from them. They became more cannibalistic. They became more brutal. And they I don't know if they were blind or not. They never got to that part, but they said they were very similar to what we would refer to as the Falmer in Elder Scrolls. Very, very similar. And because they were scanning my thoughts, seeing if I had knew any information of what they were speaking about. And some of the races do that. And he said that not only did they gain a sensitivity to certain environments, but from that sensitivity, they gained a split in the two sides. And the one I was speaking to looked very similar to the snow elves, but they were much shorter, and they weren't very big. They were, I would have to say, maybe 4 foot. They were more like they were more like a dwarf, and the ones that went crazy, they were even shorter. And there was a famous case in Iceland some years back about a woman that was found naked and with a bunch of tattoos and marks on her in Old Elven language. That she said she had been held captive for 7 years in the inner earth, and she went crazy from it. She said there were some creepy elves that were holding her captive, and those I found out it was those de-evolved ones that did that job, and they tattooed her and just covered her in the old Elven script. It looked Celtic in nature. I mean, the tattoos looked Celtic, but yeah, that's how they found this person out in the middle of nowhere in Iceland. She said that they brought her up through another opening from the inner earth up to the top, and that was many years ago. This took place, and the way the Falmer looked were very similar to how she was describing these corrupted elves. And the ones in Greenland were telling me, yeah, our brothers over there in Iceland are crazy. So it's they essentially were saying that. So it's like they said, be careful anybody going out into some of the deep wildernesses and moonscapes essentially of Iceland. You're probably going to run into one of these guys trying to grab you or abduct you or something. And they do eat people, he said, but they also like to capture people and keep them essentially in cages. And that's how they describe that. Even though the Falmer in this, they tend to do that a little bit. I noticed they had cages set up when I went into some of the deep dens.
And in Blackreach especially, they even have like a slave population of people from the surface. So
yeah, so that actually fits. It's very similar. He told me it was extremely similar to what we experience in Elder Scrolls. And yeah, you see these bugs that they have in corrals as well down in there too. These large insectoid-looking things that are kind of a pain in the ass. But yeah, it's incredibly similar to this corrupted elf. I'm not even sure what this race called themselves. I don't think they had a name I could pronounce, but it was they said, yeah, one way went really environmentally sensitive. And then the other way, because of that sensitivity, took more the degenerated route. And it has something to do with the earth fields as well, and some of the poisons we have, and some of the different environmental, energetic and magnetic, and sometimes like earth field conditions that helped corrupt that other faction as well. Like I always talk about the different floating like density pockets that are across the face of the earth. They said that had to do with some of the split as well because of the energy sensitivities of this particular faction or this particular race. And they're in Greenland. The good ones are in Greenland inside of a grotto that goes into the inner earth. The bad ones are in Iceland, and they go into the inner earth into a set of caverns that look exactly like how the Falmer set up their little network under the ground as well. So the similarities are very striking to the snow elves and the Falmer.
All right, into the next race. We have the aliens, or the Heartland High Elves. Now, we do know that they have very slight differences from the actual High Elves, but I believe like all these races can breed together, so like, and they'll make whatever the mother's race is, that's what the baby will be, but it may have some features of the other race, but genetically it'll be basically the mother's race.
Hmm.
But the aliens likely were a mix by the end of their existence of humans and elves, and they created what we now know as the White Gold Tower and the Imperial City. They built it actually as a temple to the Aedra, but they were known for worshiping both the Aedra and the Daedra. And so in battle, they would have themselves and large Daedric armies, but they still revered the Aedra as like their main gods.
Mm-hmm.
But the Daedra require sacrifices, especially the Daedra they were conspiring with, which were mostly Molag Bal, Mehrunes Dagon, and Clavicus Vile were their major benefactors, though some of them worshipped Azura and Mephala and Boethia, what's the other one that I'm thinking of? Oh, Meridia. But they were mostly worshippers of Mehrunes Dagon because he gave them most of what they needed. And as a result, when the proto version of the Imperial race came into Tamriel, into Cyrodiil, they enslaved them and used them as their human sacrifice. And a war broke out in which the humans were aided by what could possibly be a time-traveling knight, a half-man Minotaur god, and the founder of the First Empire, Saint Alessia, all were able to, with the agreement between the wielders of the Dragon's Blood, because at this time Saint Alessia their war was a losing fight, and Saint Alessia prayed to Akatosh and was like, if you deliver us from this, I will ensure that you're still the main god in whatever pantheon comes about. And she did, and she actually is the first known wielder of the Dragon's Blood after Miraak.
Okay.
And she was given the Amulet of Kings, and that's how the Amulet of Kings tradition began, with the first rising of the First Empire. And what the Amulet of Kings does is when it's worn by a legitimate wielder of the Dragon's Blood, it closes the ability for large Daedric forces to come into Mundus. And when that happened, the humans had what they needed to win the war. And Pelennel Lightstrike, this knight that we believe came from this future and came back in time and was fighting. The reason why I believe he came from the future was he was known to slaughter elves. He was the biggest, and he was like prime number one, kill this guy for the elves. And he only died right at the end of the war. And he was quartered, and even after he was quartered, he was still screaming and ready to kill. But the reason why we think he's a time traveler is because while he was going into battle, he would proclaim the right of Raymond Cyrodiil, the founder of the Second Empire, who is over at least 700 years removed from this port. So that's why we believe he is a time traveler, because he was proclaiming like the rights of Raymond Cyrodiil, and he was talking, and if he had come from that period, he would have came from a period where elves were not very well respected by
okay.
So
that makes sense then. Yeah, I can see where you justify the time traveling knight. Yeah, very much like the White Knights did themselves. So that fits in that form of the disclosure as well. This guy you have up front, this alien figure, he's the one that fits the Lancaneer look even more than what I was saying before. He fits the longer face and the way their eyes are and the way their cheekbones are, even the paleness of his face and everything, and the armor. These the way the Lancaneers look is very similar to this. It's just they use white and gray colored armor, and and he's using this golden like brass color. But the way the eyes are and the way the demeanor is and the way the stance, this is Lancaneer all the way. They're an offshoot of the Orions and other elves, and they're a warrior servant race that's involved in the soul trade. like gathering ghost energies and gathering soul energies, essentially like how they're powering the dwarves and everything were powering their equipment, everything with different soul energies and soul gems. The Lancaneers do something very similar by capturing souls in like a cube or some kind of sphere or something like that for trading to other races to use as either a power source or in their incarnation cycles if they need a warrior or they need a scientist or a doctor. They gather them from graveyards and they gather them from just the landscape where there was battles and stuff like that. And they're also caravan guards, where if there is a caravan of energies or some kind of thing that that some other aliens or even cabal forces want guarded, sometimes these guys will be caravan guards. Like in the Fallout series where you had caravan guards, they play that role as well. And they're extremely skilled warriors. I'm not going to give them any more credit than they're due because they tend to be assholes. But it's these guys, they're also involved in dark magics, the real ones. And they're involved in a lot of spells and a lot of geometric magic in reality, the real ones. These guys look extremely similar to the Lancaneers, and even in the stance and the demeanor, that was actually the perfect picture to show because that's how they act, that's how they carry themselves. So they're a very belligerent elven race as far as I'm concerned. They have black and or white hair. They don't seem to have the shades in between instead of gray a little bit. They don't go to like blonde or red or anything like that. It's just black, white, or gray, essentially, is how their hair goes.
Another interesting bit about the aliens is even after they lost the war and the First Empire came about, they actually weren't defeated. Like, they weren't genocided yet. What happened is the founders of the new empire, Saint Alessia, was like, well, any alien willing to stop worshiping Daedra, join us as advisors and consultants about running an empire, because they owned an empire already, would be welcomed in. And many of them took that up. Other ones were like, no, I've committed too many atrocities prior to this to be allowed to live. And so I will move. A lot of them moved to High Rock and joined the Durrani Hegemony. And then a few of them moved just to different regions of Tamriel and became known as Wild Elves. And in fact, there's a few pockets of those still around in the lore, though you don't run into them in the games. So in the future, they might come into this issue of like alien, like predator, like ancestors. Their ancestors were aliens, but now they're these like wild elves. Alien DNA is in the Imperials and the Bretons, but not many other races. In fact, the aliens and the Nords were known not friends, because the Nords, at the first opportunity to join the war on behalf of the other humans, did. The Nords were like, we can go to Cyrodiil and kick some ass. Let's go. And the Nords and the aliens, even prior to that, the aliens were basically told, come into Skyrim and we will cut you to pieces. We already did it to one elven race. Don't test us.
That's I find interesting where you said that the Bretons and the Imperials have some of their DNA, and also the fact that their name Alien sounds similar to alien. It's like saying aliens basically gave DNA to a lot of other races on Earth. It kind of has that ring or that vibe to it a little bit, where it's just a subtle influx there. But that part I didn't know. I didn't know the Bretons and the Imperials had alien DNA. That's actually quite interesting. So they're actually part elf, very much like how the Tuathans in reality integrated themselves into human lines in the past. They fused with human lines. So some of the Tuathans have round ears like ourselves. You can't distinct them from a human, except they have maybe a brighter presence to them, very much like Tuatha De Danann means the shining ones. So they have like kind of brighter energetic presence to them. And there's I don't want to say they're prettier. That's the wrong choice of words. I'm not going to say pretty boy like the Orions, but the angelic Orions. But the fact that that little subtlety right there rings true, because I even have some Tuathan in my own family line. So from way further back, Isaac himself is part Tuathan. So it's like, and you can tell by his height a little bit. So, and I have some ancestry that goes back. There's another relative, he called himself Thomas in some other channelings I did. He integrated into my mother's line. He called himself Thomas James Craig in the family tree. And he was part Tuathan. So he was also a time traveler that integrated himself in as well. I came to find out from a future. They called themselves the Human Concordant, but human also meant part elf, part alien, part all that as well. A mix, human, many hues, colors, all that other stuff. That's what that meant. So yeah, some of that's even in my own tree. So that actually rang true, even though that little subtlety there I found pretty interesting.
Um, I do have to go back and say it's not a very large amount of the DNA in
Just a little bit, yeah.
the Imperials. In the Dwemer, in the Bretons, I mean, there's a much larger percentage of it because the Bretons were also a race that they weren't enslaved, but they were sort of in partnership with this elven hegemony called the Dureni. They were a group of high elves that went to High Rock, and that's why when the aliens were destroyed, they went to them. And they opened them welcomely because the aliens were well-respected trade partners and mages, and they were welcomed easily without any kind of false motives like the Dwemer would have done. But by this period, the Dwemer were disappeared already. So, but so inside of the Bretons, there's a decent amount of high elf and alien DNA. Not like majority; it's still majority human, but it's enough where like they're better at magic. Some have elven features, and they tend to also be a little taller.
Yeah. Then that's how Isaac is. He's slightly a little taller, and I found out the majority of that mix comes from the Celtic world and comes also from the Scandinavian world, which also links it back to Atlantis as well. So you have the Nords that you said earlier on, which were the Proto-Nords. That would be Atlantis, heavy amount of that as well. But then you had some of the Elven mix, Elvens that came along, entered the Celtic world after the Orion invasion, because the Orions basically genetically engineered some of the Tuathan mixes and everything. They revolted, then they made a pact with humans. They mixed with humans' DNA, and that's where we get some of that mix. Some of the red hair, the bright red hair, and mixes like that.
The Shoddy Cast is a YouTube channel. They have a great series on like the Elder Scrolls lore. In depth. It goes a bit further than I going into some of the races and some of the history and stuff. If you watch the opening to the Breton episode, you actually get a Nordic warrior's account of running upon a very early version of the Bretons that had a lot more of the elven features, and they thought were elves because they were speaking Elvish. And so they assault them, and it's only when they've already almost killed all of them and an elder speaks in the Nordic tongue to them that they realize that these are like a mongrel race between the elves and these proto-Nords.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they're mixed between both houses. Yeah, just like I've said in the past, some of the Viking lines mix also with Elven lines as well, because some of these proto-Vikings preferred, Elven women or elemental type women. So that actually makes sense as well. And they created a race of mixes that were very, very elementally based and very, very tribal. So that actually makes sense. They went into the inner earth after other humans were assaulting them a lot. But also the origin of Nords fascinates me too, because it sounds very similar to Atlantis or Hyperborea. So it sounds very, very similar in makeup to Atlantis or Hyperborea. And that ends up being true. They touched on Atlantis just a little bit in they named it something different, but they touched on Hyperborea and Atlantis.
All right. On to the next, again, they built the White Gold Tower and stuff. Chimer. Now, the Chimer are a group of high elves, indistinguishable from any other high elf race. The only remaining Chimer is Amalexia, and she's the only one you can meet in the game, since she's dead by the events of Skyrim and Oblivion. So you need to play either the Elder Scrolls Online or Morrowind to meet her as Amalexia. But the Chimer were a sectarian group of solely Daedra worshipping high elves. Now, on the Somerset Isle, that is a big no-no. No Daedra worship on the Somerset Isle officially. They were doing it in the streets, big problem. So they left. They chose to leave. Now there was a group of other high elves under Trinimac, who did not want them to leave and tried to stop them. We will get into more of that story with a later race in this video, but they leave, and they settle in what is now Morrowind, and they fought wars against the Dwemer because they were worshippers of the Daedric cults, and the Dwemer make fun of anyone that worships anything. So there was clearly a bit of religious conflict there, but it wasn't immediate, and they were some bloody wars. They came to an agreement. Then they found out about the whole Heart of Lorcan plan that was going on with the Dwemer, which eventually caused them to cease existence.
Mm-hmm.
And it sparked another religious war because they thought it was them trying to become gods, and that was unacceptable. It ended with the Dwemer disappearing and going to their own plane of oblivion. Well, I don't even know if it's a plane of oblivion. They could just be outside of creation. It's a lot like in that show Lucifer, when like at the end of the one season, he just like opens a portal and it's like, "Mom, go through there. You have your own universe now. You can do whatever you want with it." That's at least how we think it is. It could be a time distortion thing, and they could pop up out of nowhere in another game, but we don't know yet. Because
in the future, sometime they could pop up again. Yeah.
Currently, that's the theory that's being run with, because they kind of disappeared, and it seems like maybe they're in their own universe or they've become part of the universal consciousness as it exists. We don't know. The Chimer then, Amalexia, Vivek, and Sothasil, three of the leaders of the Chimer armies during the war, turned on their great hero, Nerevar, and killed him, and then tried to use the tools of Lorcan to become gods themselves. Now, this would lead to her keeping her Chimer look. Sothasil, he merged himself with Dwemer technology. Like, he was like making implants and stuff with it. I don't know. He was still clearly a Chimer base, but he wasn't. But he integrated so much with the Dwemer technology that like he was kind of a cyborg. And then there was Vivek, who took half the changes that happened at this point and half of the Chimer look, and that's how his body was split right down the middle. He's actually he's also a really cool figure, just as like a figure in the Elder Scrolls, and he's probably the only member of the Tribunal still alive during the events of Skyrim, because it's up to the player's choice if they kill him, and it's very rare that they do because he's just such an interesting character. But as a result of their tampering, they had crossed the Daedric prince Azura, who cursed their followers into the Dark Elves. So where they had once been fair-skinned, elegant high elves, essentially, they now became the Dunmer, or the Dark Elves. And their eyes were changed to either be purple or red, and their skin became the color of the ashlands that they now inhabit in Morrowind. So now they get this gray or dark purple skin. Their once fair hair is now always black or dark brown, or red. There's some with red hair. They became their old abilities with magic are now restricted mostly to fire magic. They're resistant to heat and stuff, whereas now, but they're clearly a changed race, and they were changed by the Daedra. And being changed by the Daedra is a curse. And there was a large attempt to revert this, but they couldn't do it. No matter what they did, they couldn't do it, because it was basically a god that changed them. And
what I find interesting about this story, they have a Syrian look to them. Essentially, all their elves kind of do, since Syrians essentially are dark elves in the myth and lore. They're the ones that Odin went directly up against in the past. And I always considered some of them kind of cursed too, the way they act. But they would disagree with me on that. But they're also linked to. Here's another Christmas reference. They're linked to the Krampus mythology as well. Many people think that there's Draco involved in this, where children were told if they weren't good, that Krampus would come and steal them and eat them, essentially. Basically in German mythology. But this, what I find interesting is, it comes from Germany and also some of the Scandinavian countries. And they basically were scaring people into denying the Dark Elves, which is something Odin probably would have done too. No, don't deal with them, sort of thing. But what in Scandinavian mythology and Viking mythology, there is, or Norse mythology, there is a creature called Albion, and it was considered to be like a dark elfish thing with a bunch of hair covering it, and have goat some of them had goat legs, like Krampus would have had, like a satyr. Essentially, he was like supposed to be a satyr or mix, but since Syrian elves are essentially elemental, they added the whole satyr thing into it and merged it, like how people think of the devil. But like in Puritan mythology and stuff like that. With Albion, though, they would steal children. They would essentially consume them and eat them, essentially, and that also goes along with negative fairy mythologies as well, where they were changelings. Those myths were about greys, abducting people. But this specific one, though, the fact that they were cursed and changed is essentially kind of how some of these darker elves came into being, whereas they were also created by the Orions to have that pigmentation. It was differing from the fair skin of the Orions. Okay, now I'm getting a bit of a mind wipe. Okay, here we are. Somebody doesn't want me saying this part, where also there's these different clans of Syrian elves, dark elves. There's also a teal colored skin version as well. It looks like a tealish green. That has another a fragment of Orion DNA, and there's some of them are green skin, very much like you have Osiris in the Egyptian mythology, where he became green because he had a little bit of reptilian that was added in later on during the last war for Egypt after around the time Atlantis fell. You had Osiris was brought back in a green form, as was Isis. But that ended up creating the 13 Cabal families after a while, the offspring that came from that. But the teal colored skin was another variation of what we would consider to be dark elves. And when I did this, an episode of Conspiracy Sect that had to do with Krampus, I wanted to know more about what Krampus actually was. And of course, this falls under the "be careful what you wish for" category, because I knew about the dark elves, I knew about the hairy Albion, mix of reptilian and elemental and elven. That's where the three were, and that's also why it was shorter. And it was the mythology kind of mixed a hairy reptilian with that. But I want to know where this came from. And the next morning, I was getting harassed by a group of Syrians that had a slightly longer chin, and they had like hair that went around their neck and stuff like that. So it was another offshoot as well that also got integrated into the Krampus mythology, which is also dark elf as well. They had red eyes and they had some purple shading to the eyes, very similar to that of this. So yeah, they pulled that from a real clan. Now there are really benevolent Syrians, and some of the ones I've come across recently have been major assholes to me. So it's like I had to get rid of another group recently that was harassing me from a spaceship that I literally saw in the sky. This was several nights ago. I went to take the garbage out. They were not expecting me to be outside, and their spaceship was in the sky, and they were in like this colorful orbital like light ship. They were all sitting at an egg-shaped table. I bilocated it. They kind of went boo just to see what they were doing, and they were filling around with an egg-shaped table that had kind of like this darker trim around it and had this ball in the center, and they were using it to rain waves down on the area. And I ended up having to get rid of that. But that was a group I recently ran across that were pure Syrians that also looked exactly like these dark elves. Me and the Syrians have a kind of tenuous relationship. Even some of the good clans out there tends to be this tension there. But yeah, it's split into good bad, just like with those other elves that became like the Falmer. It's very, very similar with some of their groups, and some of the more devolved ones became some of those hairier ones became kind of the basis for the Krampus mythology and the Albion demonic group, as the Norse call them. They call them Albion or demon type. It was a demon type. I don't know the exact etymology of the name, but that's what they called them.
Yeah. Another interesting thing about the Dark Elves is their culture is really, really interesting, because Morrowind is a very inhospitable place. There's ashlands and fungal forests. So they've grown into these like noble house family groups that you can only serve one at a time, and they are how they govern themselves, even though they're kind of a mix between like these noble families meeting at a council and religious control. So it's like a mix between like a theocracy and a representative republic of like elites.
Mhm.
So it's this weird system, but it works for them. And one of the other cool things, they also are known to practice slavery like a lot. They prefer Khajiit and Argonian slaves, but they'll take anybody. But Khajiits and Argonians last the longest in the inhospitable environment they live in, so that's who they generally take as slaves. They're also known to be very arrogant, like the most arrogant of the elves. Their like superiority complex is greater than any of the others. In fact, in Morrowind, if you don't play as a dark elf, you're openly considered like inferior by most of the dark elves in the game.
Okay.
Until you prove yourself as some kind of hero, but even after that, you're still going to get a racist jab every once in a while. They because they don't have the like a lot of the materials other parts of Tamriel have due to the volcanic nature of the area. A lot of their armors are actually made of chitin, which is like shells of bug, and their livestock are either insectoids or like large jellyfish-like things.
Yeah, I've seen those before.
Their whole like all of well, I'll show Morrowind a bit in the later episode part of this show, and you'll get to see how alien Morrowind looks. So.
And they also, though, some of the Syrian clans and some of the Lancaneer clans can control these astral parasites that also look like jellyfish. They tend to farm them and throw them at people. So that's actually quite interesting. And the fact they chose to have bug armor, they also, the Lancaneers and some of the darker elf Syrians also have insectoid guards. So that they have posted at different doors to their ships. Not all insectoids are made alike. There are some that were engineered to be guards. Other ones that are more high intelligence type of like genetic engineer types, like some people see on ships. But some are more like the greeters or guards of ships. Like when people are abducted, you see an insectoid ushering them into places. It's usually some of these elfin types and also high gray even types that created insectoid guards, but there are also ones that were our race that are superior. Sometimes they say superior in intellect. They say that to the other gray type races. It just depends on which ones you talk to. But it's interesting they fused like bug type of like servants with them because some of these bugs and astral parasites and jellyfish things are servants to some of these elves. Yeah.
And also they have been known to, well, not even have been known. They have a system in which assassination is legal. So if you have a political rival, you hire the Morag Tong. The Morag Tong are state-sanctioned assassins, and all the assassin has to do is show their writ of execution for the assassination contract, and they're let out of prison if they get in prison. They're allowed to take anything that person had on them to help cover the cost of their just livelihood. Plus, they're getting paid for the assassination, but that goes to the guild themselves. The assassin himself is allowed to keep anything he takes off the body, but if they kill them in their house, they're not allowed to take any of that property. That goes to the family.
Okay.
And so, but if like say I had like a piece of jewelry on me that was worth a lot, they could take it if they killed me. The Morag Tong also have been known to war with the Dark Brotherhood, and it's believed that the Dark Brotherhood might have actually been like a splinter faction originally of the Morag Tong. So that's an interesting side. And the Morag Tong predates the change to Dark Elves, but they got a lot of their political power after that. So.
That's interesting that the Dark Elves have this much power, and their families are split up very similar to the Cabal or different Orion clans that align with different Cabal families and different governments around the world. It's very, very similar. It shadows that just slightly. The fact they're the most arrogant race, I find that interesting because in reality, a lot of the Syrian clans are servants to the remaining Fomorian or Orion type clans. So I find it interesting. They made them very much like some of these different Orion clans the way they were in the past before they started to degenerate and such. But yeah, I find that interesting. They make them the biggest arrogant ones in the whole game.
I also find it interesting that they enslave Argonians,
Mm-hmm.
which is like these Syrians enslaving reptilians to do their work for them.
Yeah, and some Syrians will do that. They'll find some reptilians and do the very same thing. So like the Orions do with the Draco. So it's pretty much the same thing. So that's being depicted there. Even though the Argonians, those I've encountered reptilians that look very much like them, and even some Draco derivatives I've come across that look very very similar as well. Not just raptor and alligator and crocodile. I've come across reptilian derivatives that look pretty damn close to Argonians. And also there's another race, there's these reptoid type races that were primarily used as servants that broke free and now live in the inner earth that are very similar to Argonians as well. It's very, very, very similar.
All right, on to the next race. The Orcs, or Orsmir. Now, initially you would not think that these are an elf, but they are. But they were changed by Daedric forces as well, which is kind of the reason why they're so grotesque compared to the other elves. The Orsmir means the spurned and ostracized, and the story of their emergence onto the mortal plane begins with the Chimers' exodus from the Somerset Isle. So the Chimer are leaving on their ships, and Trinimac, a holy knight of the 8 divine. Well, I don't even know if it's the 8 divines. The Elven pantheon is weird, but a holy knight or servant of the gods tries to stop them. Says, "No, you're not worshiping Daedra. You're going to come home. You're going to be good high elves. You're going to do this. You're going to do that." Well, these Chimer were like, "No, we're Daedra worshippers. We're leaving," and placated their Daedric allies because the force that Trinimac led were the best warriors in all of the Somerset Isle. So Trinimac is stopping them. He's got a fleet, and the ships leaving are mostly civilian craft, not warships. His fleet of warships stopped them, and at this moment, Boethia acts. Boethia, the Daedric prince, comes in and sets foot on Trinimac's ship and eats him. Just eats him. Picks him up, puts it in, because Daedric can change their, well, Daedric princes can change their form at will. So picks him up, eats him, shits him out as the first orc, the Daedric prince Malakath. All of his followers, while he's being digested, Boethia snaps, they're orcs now. They're not accepted in the Somerset Isle anymore, of course, because look at them. And Malakath comes out and is livid and sets up the code of Malakath and tells his followers, "We will go into the hills. We will become we will never be accepted by any society, so we will go into the hills and make our own tribal society." And he writes the code of, well, he exclaims the code of Malakath that then later gets written down, which is like this tribal law where, like, if you wrong somebody, you pay in your own blood, or you pay in coin, because we need coin, and that's real. Coin's only for outsiders. If it's an orc, they're paying in their own blood. That the strongest male shall lead and will usurp his father in a duel to the death. Or his father, generally it's his father, but sometimes it's like an uncle or something. That's a rare scenario, but usually it's their father, because generally the tribe leader is like has a harem of all the women, and it's not like there's families. There's only a few areas where like the code of Malakath isn't followed. Orsinium, which is like this large orcish state in the mountains of High Rock, does not follow the code of Malakath because it's just at a size where it can't. Like it's like the orc homeland, which it's basically a city state, but it was started by an orc chieftain who really wanted to create a homeland for the orcs, and it's been destroyed like 4 times and rebuilt like 4 times. Currently, during the events of Skyrim, there is an Orsinium, And during the events of the Elder Scrolls Online, you can go there because it's during that period, the orcs joined the Daggerfall Covenant, and the Daggerfall Covenant kept the other the groups around there from destroying it. But yeah, the orcs tend to be outside. You find in Skyrim, especially, you find their tribal like longhouses, and you can go in and trade with them, and they'll do trade. And if you're an orc, but you have to earn something called Bloodkin, which is basically you're not an orc, but we respect you as an orc. Now, if you start the game as an orc, you're allowed in to trade basically equally, but they won't be. You can go in there and trade and stuff without being attacked, but they just won't like you, and they won't work with you. But later on, you can earn Bloodkin, and then they will.
Mm-hmm.
You can earn Bloodkin a few different ways. That you can either befriend an orc. There's a few orcs that you can do this with. That you could also do it by finishing the quest for the Daedric hammer. It's a Dwemer hammer that Malakath seems to give out as his like Daedric artifact, even though it's not made by him. Voldendrung, you can doing that quest in Skyrim will get you it, because the medicine woman of the tribe you help will make you a Bloodkin. And then I believe there's another quest where if you show up to one of the other strongholds, like he'll just send you, the Orc Chieftain will send you out to go find some gauntlets that are special. The Orcs tribal society is raw, but they're great. They probably, even though it pains me to say this, are probably physically the strongest fighters on the face of Tamriel. Though the Nords give them a run for their money, and depending on who it is, one will win. But generally, even during like raw physical strength, it's them and the Nords are the two top races.
Yeah, I've noticed that with the physical strength. This reminds me of a race I ran across that was very similar in appearance to the orcs. And I wanted to know who in reality were what the orc stories were based off of. I wanted to break it down to each race to see where their origin stories were. And with the orcs, it was very similar to how it took place in the story, believe it or not, but it was more of a merging of different cosmic energies. And there was a certain race that had kind of almost a pig appearance, kind of like a mix between the orcs and the pig guards from Return of the Jedi. It was like that, a mix between the two. And they were more or less guards of different cosmic libraries. But when they came into our form, they took more of the orcish form, and they were telling me that they were basically a blending of energies. And when they came through into our physics, they began to take that form. It's not like how one god ate the other sort of thing. It was more like a blending. In their story, it was a blending of energies, and they came through and they had that appearance. They're the ones I know of can be warriors. They also created their own race of almost like these pig orc looking guys that turned into a warrior type race. The original race would say they de-evolved into more of a warrior barbaric state, and then had to evolve out of it as a race like the orcs. But that's the closest of an origin that I can find in reality to these guys. And they even have like a green pigmentation, like some Orion groups have, like a green brown pigmentation, or sometimes a forest green, and even bright green. I've seen a few in Oblivion that were bright green, but that have almost like a glow appearance. That's how some of them look like that. That's the closest of an origin or a similarity to the orcs that I can locate.
The Code of Malakath also in the games make it so an orc can leave if it's serving in an army that the orcs agree to serve in, and they can return to the stronghold. But if an orc just moves to like a civilized city to do business, and that's what they want to do, they're not allowed back at the stronghold. Mostly just due to the fact that it's just the way, like they've changed too much to be tribal. A lot of orcish tools and weapons are these rudimentary sort of things. Their armors are always raw. This is the most refined orcish armor you can get. Generally, most of the time it's like the one in Skyrim that's really spiky and made of things. They also mine heavier ores like Orsmer or a chalcum.
Orcanium, I believe it was.
Yeah, they mine heavier ores. They tend to wear heavier armors. They tend to also go into something called a berserker rage, where they will go into like a trance, almost like the berserkers of like Norse mythology. They will go into like a trance where they're bloodlusted, where like their blood they can do more damage than any other race in that form physically. Whereas the Nords can do like a battle cry that'll scare stuff away. They will go into like a berserker rage.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah, that's actually interesting. I've run into races that seem to have that almost like a sound wave that's coming off them. They can emit a sound wave that actually scares other races, very much like with the Nords and their battle cry sort of thing, or like the Dragonborn with its voice sort of thing. Not quite that powerful. It's more like a presence. It's more or less in the subsonic sound frequency, like how lions and tigers have that subsonic sound frequency. It's kind of similar to that. I've run into that with some of the cat races and some like some of the Lyran offshoots and stuff like that. Even the more degenerated ones, and some of these other races. I have not met the next stage of orc type of being yet. I met the one that was their proto race, but I've not met any from like the tribal orc. And I even remember in the games there were some more sophisticated ones too that had houses and stuff like that that were not part of this too. In Oblivion, you run into that primarily from what I've seen. But yeah, but I've not run into this stage one yet. I was told they existed, just like you and I, Ryan. We found out there was another race of dwarfs that was a spinoff of the World of Wheels, but they were different. That's how what like it is with the orc type races as well. There was one that spun off and it was different, and it's exactly like this, but they don't talk to anybody. Just like that other race of dwarves, they don't talk to anybody. It's very much the same. Even Isaac was telling me don't bet on being able to speak to these guys because they're loners. They're out in the wilderness, or they're out like in a stronghold, very much like this. They're not going to talk to you. They're very separatist. So that's what I was warned about that race. They're not hostile unless you confront them, but they don't want anything to do with humans, from what I understand.
Yep. So the next race, the Sea Elves, or the Maurmer, or the Elves of Piandodori, which come from a continent south of Somerset Isle. You will never see it on a map of Tamriel. I've never even seen it on a map of the wider world. So it's got to be. I think it's actually like an archipelago, really.
Mm-hmm.
And these elves live under a wizard king who like reverses in age. As it's weird. He doesn't die. He reverses in age. They've tried to assault and invade the Somerset Isle multiple times. And the first Aldmeri Dominion fought a big war with them while fighting a war with the rest of Tamriel. So that just shows how powerful the first Aldmeri Dominion was. Oh, actually, a lot of these the Daggerfall Covenant didn't, but even the Ebonheart Pact in Skyrim, Morrowind, and Argonia also fought a second war during that period against a non-Tamrielic faction of Akaviri, which come from a separate continent. They don't have elves on that continent, though. These elves are descendants of the Aldmer from Aldmeris, but for some reason it's believed they actually live underwater and on islands. Some people call them the tropic elves, but the sea elves seem to be their main name. They have bluish or pale blue skin, but like there's more like aquamarine skin. White eyes, almost like a blind fish. But they aren't blind. And almost otherwise, they're basically just an Altmer, but they do have a weird religion that is like snake worship. And they can like summon sea serpents, and basically they worship their god who is their king, but is also like who, I don't know. Their religion is very fragmentary. You only hear about it a few times in the lore, so it's very hard to actually get any like actual grip on them. And you only see them in the Elder Scrolls Online. You don't see them in any other games, and you only fight them there where they're doing you don't learn about their culture though. All you know is that they've tried to invade the Somerset. They've basically been in a perpetual state of war with the Somerset Isle since the Aldmer moved there.
Okay.
that's all we know about them, basically.
That's very interesting because they're very reminiscent of some mer types I've run across that have blue skin and pointy ears. I know they were a form of type of fae, fairy, elf. They're all these races, all these I find interesting. The way they even presented it is they're just different offshoots of each other. That's how it is in reality with the different elves and the different fairies and all of them. Very, very similar to one another. That's why sometimes I can't always distinct between them because they look so damn similar to one another. There's even offshoots of fairies that exist here that look like the cactus pigmentation with flowers like in their hair and stuff like that. They look like Native Americans, but like a cactus pigmentation. I've run across that with these guys specifically, though. This looks like a mix of the Myrmidon, and some of the Myrmidon do have blue skin like this as well, because they also have Syrian. Some of them have Syrian origin. Some of them have Pleiadian genes as well, but and then Nord type of genes. But with that, it seems to be a mix of the Myrmidon and primarily Myrmidon for what I'm looking at there. But there seems to be other Myr Syrian types in there as well, and it's they seem to have some of the temperament of the Myrmidon because the Myrmidon can summon like sea creatures, like you see Aquaman do as well. And they can summon whirlpools, everything you was hearing about in the past. There's also another mer type that's the embodiment of water that's like tubule, like in the movie The Abyss. They work closely with those to try to create conditions where if somebody was getting too close to an area where they were, or something like that in the sea, or was causing problems or something like that, they would stop battles ancient battles and stuff like that from going on with sea serpents and with other animals like sharks. And they can control them. So it's that's pretty close to the Myrmidon mixed with some of the other Syrian Myr and fairy type of races as well. They mixed it, but they got primarily the Myrmidon attitude in there in some cases. So I found that interesting.
All right. Before we do gameplay, you should probably do a channel if you're going to do
Okay. Yeah. I can feel beings around, but I'm having a hard time seeing them. I'm trying to see who's around. It feels more nature oriented this time, so it's more likely fairies. We've had a lot of Aluzi fairies. Those are the little tiny one that fly around. And here I found a way to summon Aluzi into an area, and it made the area more peaceful. So it brought about a bigger bubble here, so which was very, very helpful. So I'm trying to see who is here. Isaac, who is here? Unless you're going to be the one to talk again. You got to find. He said they're here. It's like you got to tell me who it is. I don't exactly see them. They're not my frequency wavelength. Let me stay here. He always does this. Them there. I'm like, you got to illuminate them for me at least. Oh, all right. You look like Tawathan to me, actually. No. What elven race are you? You look. I obviously see the ears. I don't recognize your species. Let me see. Who are you, please? Are you local? I don't know if I trust you completely. No offense. There's something. Okay, somebody's trying to block here. Hang on. Somebody doesn't want something said here. Okay, there is a fairy race here. No, you're a little too pale for my liking. You look. No. Okay. No offense to any of them that are naturally white and cream color, but no. Okay. Okay, there was somebody blocking. Okay, are there fairies present? Here, illuminate them for me, Isaac, please, if you would. Thank you. Okay. I'm seeing purple colored fairy colors. I'm seeing different. This is fairly odd. I'm seeing like mixes and hybrids of like a lot of different species we were just talking about. I'm seeing mixes, and I'm seeing a very tall lady. She's purple in color, very, very purple, very much like this. And are you Syrian? You have no name like this. Are you earthly terrestrial? Okay. Then why is there a negative force trying to stop this intertaker? Why are they aimed at you specifically? I don't know if I'm comfortable channeling you if you have that big of an aim. Nope, no offense intended. Okay, all right. Why are you trying to hide inside of a little thing? What's this? Wow, is that an unstable connection? Okay, Isaac, I may need you then, because or if there is a benevolent race or benevolent set of people here. Ah, okay. Thank you. Um, Elena, is that you? You have a limited time to speak. Okay. Is your lady friend Vessa nearby? Thank you. I thank you for the confirmation. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. It looks like two Saranan ladies that I talked to are wanting to speak because they're part fairy and they got elemental in them too as well. Some of the Saranan people are mixes between elemental and galactic, so it's this makes sense that they would want to talk here. So, which one of you? Elena, got it. You sound like you're in a hurry. Correct. Okay. Some of them sometimes they have a narrow conduit. Some days they can stick around forever. Other days it's limited. So, all right. All right. Ooh, you're coming in strong there. Oh, hat. Yes, they have a hard time with my hat. So, because some shungite goes two ways, where it can block other transmissions as well. So, um, ooh, what's the rush? Okay. Yes, I know. I know. They're giving me crap for not figuring it out quick enough. Okay. Yeah. Greetings, everyone. This is Elena. The reason I have chosen to take on this task talking about the different elves, which is quite fascinating, is I myself have a very of fairy variation within my genome. Some of the Saranan people have what you would call elemental coatings in the DNA that are more terrestrial to Earth. One of the ways we are related to your people, not only do we look like your people and have other offshoots like the Mozen and other groups that are related to yourselves in that way, galactically, but we also have fairy combinations, and we do have energetic wings that are not necessarily visible to human eyes. His and your own, Ryan, would see these wing variations that are elementally in nature, but also energetic as well, and can take on more of a solid appearance if we wish it to be. The reason I was chosen is because there's also some elven coding in our DNA, and myself especially, uh, with the different elven races that have spoken to you. There are many that you have not met yet, many variations and combinations and different hybridizations that you have not met. Amongst all these different variations that you have shown here today, there are hybrids between many of them. There are hybrid individuals between many of them that have unique signatures and resonance frequency signatures that are unique to that individual. Very much like in your X-Men, where they have the different powers unique to the individual in those genetic combinations and mutations. It is very, very similar to that. Now, out in the galaxy, there are races that are hybridized together as well. It is more of a Star Trekian type of mix in that way, where there are the separate races, but some have intermarried. So we can go into questions if you like.
Well, that was an interesting entry. So to start, the elven type races, they predate the Orion Wars, correct?
There are some DNAs that do, but the Orions themselves were essentially almost a type of elf with human coding, you see. So either they enslaved some elven races, or they took the DNAs and created other variations of them as slaves, very much like some of the Tuathan. There are some that are essentially outside of that particular slaver mix, let's just say, but there are some that were created as slaves to the Orions. This is also where you get some, and I do mean only some, of the elven variations, but there were some that were around prior to the Orion Wars, yes.
Now, these ones that were around prior to the Orion Wars, were they working with sort of the Nordic factions and stuff to push the Orions out, or were they more inclined to join them due to look?
It depended who you spoke to. Yes, some took the side of the Nordic factions, the ones that were around then, and some took the side of the Orions, where then in turn, that is where the Orions got some of the DNA to mix with their own seed to create different servants, very much like the Syrian factions and some of the darker elf factions. So this is actually quite interesting, this topic, because of the fact that it's actually both.
I see. Okay. As for the idea that elves and fairies are basically the majority of the elementals that humans deal with on a day to day. Is that true, or is it more of like the nature spirit types that are like the embodiment of elemental like fields, like fire, ice, and water, that kind of thing?
Actually, humans deal with both on a constant basis, like more dyadic energies and the individual personalities of the different fairies, elves, and fae. Humans do deal with the embodiment of water, very much like the type of myrrh that is the embodiment of water with the tubules, as he mentioned. There's also embodiments of fire, whereas also different demonic forces as well as good fae forces can also take on those embodiments within their genome. There is a fire type of fairy that is an individual from the essence of fire, but utilizes the essence of fire within the genes. They look female, but more like a burning essence. This goes for all the elements: earth, air, fire, and water, all including metal as well. There are metallic type of elementals that you have not met yet, even though they would essentially fall under earth. They created their own, very much like in the Japanese belief system. It's very, very similar in that fashion. But humans on a regular basis deal with both groups. It's like, say you walk in nature and you are wanting to feel the essence of true nature and cleanse nature to help yourself cleanse. You are dealing with the embodiments of those elements, the earth, air, fire, and water. But you are also dealing with the elementals that are actually watching you do this and helping you along in that process. So it is both.
I went more in like channel spaces. Is it more like those, or is it more of like your groups where it's like actual elven and fairy beings?
It is more like our groups that people are channeling in that respect.
Okay. Now, when it comes to the tribal systems and the different groups of these races, is there more cohesion between these groups, like trade and living in groups together, or is it more of a really branched out, kind of like conflicted situation?
It also depends what tribe you are speaking to. Some have long-standing grudges, while other ones have long-standing friendships in trade. I will use an example. There is also a set of Greenland elves, the ones he was speaking about, the ones in the grotto in Greenland, in the center of Greenland, deep down in the earth. And there is an opening to get to it. There is also another type of elf that coexists there on in the country of Greenland, that is more towards the water, that has having to deal with different corruptions in the elements of the water tubule beings that are attempting to create their own sentience aside from the element of water, very much like the fairy I spoke to about fire. Those two groups, it is not a tenuous relationship. They are friends, but they have two completely different belief systems and structural, as you would say, strategies on how to deal with that specific situation. They work together to attempt to create a unity, but they do have different thought patterns on how to get things done, very much like in human cultures. They are good friends, they do trade with one another, but at the very same time, they have different strategies on how to get things done, also based on their own sensitivities or lack of sensitivities to different energetic changes. The ones underground are very sensitive, as you've spoken about and we've spoken about, but the ones above ground, on the surface of Greenland, in their own little village, which is in their own pocket, you see, have a more, as you would say, warrioristic type of mentality mixed with that of architectural and intellectual type of behaviors. They are emotional, but they are also logical. The ones underground have more of this deeper connection to the rocks, the stones, and the plants, that then they can use that elemental magic to bring about a change as well. Two completely different strategies, and you also have the Bosmicui that also help coexist deeper, even further underground as well. So there are essentially three groups that are having to trade and actually trade ideas and different types of materials with one another. The elves underground provide the ones above ground with some of the not only some of the structural ideas, but the different materials for those structural ideas.
Okay. Now I have a sort of fun question to ask.
Mm-hmm.
The dwarven races that in this context have been lumped together with elves, do their constituents out there not really like this are they more of like the other fantasy dwarf type, or are they more of this elven dwarf type? And do they particularly like this association with the elven groups, or do they kind of find it taxing on them?
Well, it depends which faction you speak to. The ones that are not associated with humans see the other elven groups as very much like the humans, and they don't want to associate with them. Are they related by blood? You can say that to some degree. They do have a very small amount of elven DNA. The ones of the World of Wheels have slightly more. Very much like you were talking about the Bretons and the Imperials. It's very much a slightly different like that. The ones that are underground currently that do not want to associate with humans because of the warlike tendencies of humans, those have slightly more elven DNA. Do they appreciate the similarities that are being shown in the game? Again, it depends on which group you talk to. Some have no elven DNA at all, you see. This is actually a very interesting question. They are more of a merging of elemental and technological galactic because they are extremely architecturally innovative. The ones underground are more warrior-like. And if you were to approach them, other than them being slightly hostile at a human presence, you would begin to see the curvature in the ear that is more like a pointed ear, elven ear, but it is rounded and curved back. Do they have blue skin and such like the other ones? No. They look like yourselves. They look more like a Viking, but shorter. The ones from the World of Wheels, however, have slightly less of the elemental DNA. And the reason for that is when the offshoot took place, some of them merged with some of the elven DNA and created their own very own dwarven offshoot that were more sensitive to human interactions upon the surface of the earth. You two have spoken about them before. They have no intention of wanting to communicate, nor will they ever. This is something that they wish to have respected. Are they telepathic? One in every 1,000 possibly has telepathic capabilities. Some of their leaders and some of their priests that they have amongst them. It's some of the elven DNA that is there that gives them some of the more enhanced areas, but it only happens one in every 1,000 or 2,000 people. And those people are revered as healers and priests, like how you would have more of an enlightened child in your society. So are they? You could consider them, although that particular group, an elven type, just like in Elder Scrolls. Yes, but the original ones have a little bit, but slightly less. It's more of a galactic elven DNA that's mixed in there.
I see. So the difference between the galactic elven and the elemental elven, is it more just that they've integrated with like the planet's energy?
Yes, exactly. And fairy energies and stuff. Other fairies have come from other dimensions, but are also related slightly tenuously to some of these other elven races. But the ones that are distinct different between Pleiadian type of elven, like some of the ones that are like in Lord of the Rings, versus that of some of the ones that remain on Earth and their descendant lineages, is some are more of a tribal based, others are more of a technological base. Do they both respect nature? Absolutely so. But you have ones that have chosen to have more of the space-faring life versus ones that are the descendant lineages of those that wanted to remain in nature and in their own pockets upon the earth. This is where you get so many variations of elves from. There's also a slightly different philosophy. The ones on the earth use more of the earth's elemental magics and use say, elemental runes or elemental symbols, or are intricately woven into the fabric of your benevolent Earth Mother. The ones in space, they had the ability to start with to be able to integrate and interweave into the nature of any planet that they encountered, very much like on Asgard. This is where they got this capability from. So in the Pleiades, the planet that they are on, or the planets that they're on, and the DNAs they've mixed with, have that ability to mix with the nature of those planets. The ones on Earth have completely integrated into the Earth lifestyle and the Earth respect and the Earth balance. They are intricately woven into the balance of the planet. And one day when they appear to you, you will see they're very much like yourselves and even have some human DNA mixed in there. This is why you get so many variations of humans and so many variations of elves. Even though humans have more of some of the galactic races DNA mixed in, this will begin to mix with the different elven cultures at some point in your histories. Very much, I myself am part fairy because of the those very interactions.
Okay. So historically speaking, on this planet, we have many stories about elves, but one that strikes me the most is the Roman general who had a legion and signed a treaty of respecting the territory of an elven people in in what was then the Germanic, like Germania. So I'm guessing somewhere in the Black Forest area.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This event happened. We have evidence that it occurred. But from what I know, Rome at the time was like a reptilian Orion cabal state. Why would these benevolent elves sign a treaty with them?
This is actually a very interesting story. There were people that did break away in mentality from that Roman state. See, Rome at the time also was under Saturn's control at that point in history as well. So you have, and also a more negative rendition of Enlil at that particular point in your histories. Some of the people that wished to see some of the different lands around. Enlil at that particular time wished to conquer some of the elemental races. So he telepathically ordered the different Roman states or the different heads to send out soldiers into these different areas. But these particular soldiers did not want to do anything negative to these different elementals. They had more of a kinship with them. They saw people very much like their own. And they also, the elementals in turn, were beginning to help them access their more peaceful sides. So a treaty was struck, not necessarily, even though historically it was shown to be with Rome herself. It was more of an agreement with those particular individual soldiers, you see. Not all of them agreed at the time, but the elementals began to give more of a peaceful ether to those particular soldiers. And even some of them, which may not have been in the history, went with the elementals, and some of them into the deep forests and into the deep parts of the inner earth. And their descendant lineages still remain, you see. There were elves, there were fairies, and other fae types that existed at that time that those soldiers encountered. This is what happened in that history, where you get some more of the merged DNAs.
So I myself have a strange group of memories from my own, I don't know if it was my own, it was a previous life or my own current life, spending time with a dark elf people who, when as a child, when they told me they were dark elves, and then I never ran into that again until coming to play the Elder Scrolls as like a 12, 13-year-old. But I always had this sort of like I'd known them sort of mentality. Can you speak to this?
Yes, this is actually interesting. This is not only within some of the genome, back to the mix of the DNAs, within your own family lineage from much further back. It doesn't show itself in the skin color or anything anymore because it was so far back. But you also had an expression amongst them that you felt like they were family to you. You lived, your soul lived amongst them, and also began to pass along the family line that you currently inhabit at this point in time. You were beginning to touch base with this particular family set. They were actually communicating with you in that particular respect. You have that affinity for them because you've lived amongst them and their ways and cherished their ways. So you were bringing that information forward. You found it familiar because of that fact.
Were these benevolent dark elves though, or like what group was this?
This particular group was neither Syrian nor regular terrestrial negative ones. This was an actual offshoot one he is unaware of that he was speaking of before, not the ones he currently battled. Those particular creatures aren't necessarily needing to be part of any sort of conversation. They are more arrogant, just like the ones you were speaking of before. This was an elven offshoot that had Syrian DNA and other elven DNAs that lightened the skin slightly, but in a lot of cases kept the darker pigmentation. That became the dominant trait. This particular group exists in an area between, which would be essentially by your country of Germany and stretching over into your country of Austria. They are in their own pocket currently at this moment in time that don't always wish to speak to people outside of the pocket within their descendant lineage. They're not part of the Syrian Lemurian contingent. They are essentially an offshoot of at least three different elven species. But again, the dominant trait was the dark elf skin, that they would look very much like, well, nearly exactly like Syrian royalty. So they just to warn both of you here, if you come across any that are like that, they're not all bad. They are an offshoot of those other ones, but do not really have any link to them politically or energetically. This is the group that you are connecting to.
And I've spent time with them in this current incarnation.
Yes, you have in light body form. They recognized you had some of their codes and wished to greet you.
Okay, because it's like very early lifetime, sort of.
It was very early on in your incarnation cycle, but it was one that you cherished and enjoyed. Another one was of a gnomish type of culture, one that he has mentioned that is currently in your United States in the Ozarks. You were also in that particular culture as well, so you've had an affinity for different elemental groups.
Okay. So anything that any of the elven contingencies would like to pass along, as long as it's for our highest good and the highest good of the listener.
Of course, they are all listening, including there were a couple of bad ones out there that were causing confusion, including some of the bad, as you would say, he calls them devil women that are out there. They're more of a Huldra definitive or more of a mix that gives them the white pigmentation of the skin. Some call them negative banshees, as in some of your Scandinavian Celtic cultures, both sides of Huldra and the banshee. In this, the good ones that are out there are also unifying to actually send energy towards this. And their message for yourselves and everyone else is at one point in your histories, we will make ourselves known to you more and more, not just in your mythology, but we will show ourselves as more like yourselves. We are essentially your cousins. We are your brothers and sisters. We are a mix. You are a mix. And even though there are individual groups, we are also all related. We are related to you. Also very much like the Saranan people are as well. So we essentially are a fairy elven mix as well. So this is what we wished to bring along, and they wished to bring along, that contact between our two species, separate from mythology, is inevitable in your histories. It may not happen in the timing that you like, but no, you are being watched over, not in a savior way, but you are being watched over, and you are being guided, and not necessarily, again, in a savior way or in an enabling way, but you are being helped by benevolence. It's not just the negativity that you see on your news or the negativity that you see around you. You are being helped. So this was the message that they wished to pass along.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have further questions?
Not at this time.
All right. Thank you. And blessings to all that's listening and yourselves. Thank you. Yeah, to give a description of her and her friend here, Elena is dark-haired, and she's fairly tall. She's about, let's say, I thought she was taller than I thought she was before when I saw her. She's slightly shorter than me. I'd say probably 5'11", something like that, and they're 5'10", dark hair, and she has the Serranans have these little squiggle eyes. That their eyes were different because of the sun that they evolved under. It affected their eyes. If they stay here long enough, our sun begins to change them a little bit. Kind of like the whole Superman thing, where he changes under a red or a gold sun sort of thing. It's kind of like that. And if they stay here long enough, you wouldn't be able to distinguish them from us. But Elena, I encountered her in Phoenix over a year ago when we back in the end of, or about a year ago, almost a year ago, I shouldn't say over a year ago, in November of 20, and where her and her friends were physically at a hotel we were at in the pool area, and they got irked because they thought I was a psychic soldier, and we encountered them physically. I knew they were there. I sensed their psychic chatter and everything while we were there. Her and her friend and her friend's brother were the ones that were there, and Vesa, her lady friend, blonde haired, I would say kind of hazelish eyes. She has almost like this coloring in her hair that goes back, though, almost looking like a feather that goes back like this. And both have the one piece jumpsuits on. Elena prefers black, all black looking, and Vesa has more of the vibrant colors, the blues and the purples and stuff like that. And her brother isn't around. I don't see her brother Vosk anywhere, but there are other, I'm seeing Mozen soldiers around now, and I'm seeing other fairies and such flying around, little Uzi fairies. So they brought in the armaments, I guess, for this. I guess they were seeing that too big of a threat to channel without some kind of buffer. But yeah, that's what they look like, and they've been basically around us ever since. So they've been valuable allies and friends. When I was sick, they were around as well. So it was they were around, even though I couldn't hear them. I kind of felt it. But that's what they look like, and that's basically how we met them. Yeah, this has been an interesting show. I don't know if you have anything to add other before we go into the game.
I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, it was actually a simple thing. I'll tell you about it after.
Okay.
Okay, so we should come out in. I was inside the thieves' den. I think I was trying to upgrade that character's fence ability.
Oh, okay. It's been so long since you used that one.
Yeah. Man, I'm trying to remember the controls for this game. I'm trying to switch. I don't want to use this weapon set. I didn't want to.
Please, listen to me for just a moment. It's very important.
What do you want? I don't know you. Oh, I do know you. Never mind. I don't want to talk to you. That's... No. Okay. Oh, maybe I can't do that stuff because I'm not in combat anymore? That'd be a weird change. Okay, so this is actually... How do I change my view? I know there was a use. There used to be a like a view change thing, so you could go first person. Oh, I just ate something. Oh. I'm gonna be doing this, trying to check that out. Walk, jump, move forward, front block, crouch, interrupts, and then zoom camera out, free lock, game camera bound, user interface. They've changed so much since I did this. Okay.
Yeah, it looks like it. It's been a long time since I've been on this too.
Well, this is the one of the ordinators, which were like the tribunal's dark elf guards.
It's interesting that they make them look like Spartans.
Yeah, they do kind of look like Spartans. I think this is Amalexi's temple.
Because some of the different elven tribes have the Spartan attitude. So yeah, no, makes sense. And we're around in the time of that time as well, like with the Bendigoth family being the dark elf. You know, they were around at that time.
Amalexia, one of the spiritual leaders of the Dwemer.
Daedric princes
Not
are
the
not
Dwemer, the
supposed to
Dunmer.
meddle in our affairs. My companion thought he had dealt with that threat. But that is not your concern. You have done well and earned our approval. Walk in blessings.
That is a Nord woman stirring a pot. Here's like a normal dark elf.
Please keep your voice down. We whisper to maintain the serenity of this holy place.
I think this was the place I was stealing a bunch of stuff from, to be honest.
That's funny. Oh yeah, after a while in games, I just go around and steal crap. No.
Yeah. But okay, we're gonna show off some more landscape, so
Okay.
let me get out of this area. But as you can see, there's like large fungal trees all over the place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was like that in Skyrim when you're in Solstheim when you go to that dark elf wizard. He has a large mushroom for a home.
Man, I've never seen this place so dead.
Oh,
There's
with lack of people. Yeah.
Lack of like actual players.
Huh.
I mean, it's an old game now.
My family runs a store.
It's been around out a while, so yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, when I first played it, there were tons and tons of people on.
Oh my god, I was here day one on this game and there was a ton of people. That guy's flying. Please.
Yes, my vision dream speaks true. You are the one my mistress seeks.
Whatever that meant.
Okay.
That must be one of the new DLCs that I have not played.
I also noticed the architecture here. Some of it looks almost like Japanese as well, and Chinese architecture as well.
Yeah, so this is like central Morrowind right here.
Well, also that coincides. What I just said coincides with some of the elven races also merged with Untumban genes as well. That wasn't mentioned before, so it kind of has that influence a little bit too. You know. So, was that an elven structure?
What?
Oh, the castle back there, was that elven? Or are you in an elven area?
Oh yeah. I'm inside Morrowind, which is like the dark elf homeland.
Oh, okay. So yeah, with the architecture that coincides a lot with the they merge with Untumban genes too.
Oh, and this is one of those jellyfish creatures I was talking about.
Oh, the net. Yeah.
Why isn't it letting me use my abilities?
As it kills you in front of everybody. Does. Okay.
Well, I'm doing this like this game. This is gonna.
It skips a little, but it's doing pretty good so far. Okay, there we go. But like I was saying, when I was in Japan, I came across some Elvins that looked like the native Japanese people, and some Mer that did as well. Um, so yeah, and along with the Untumban people. So that obviously merged at some point. That's very significant. That was in there,
Oh, there's those
and
zombies.
Dark Elves specifically. Oh, this is interesting.
I gotta get away from here. I don't want to have to fight all this. Oh, these are the people displaced from their homes.
As you run over everybody with your horse. Okay, no.
Oh, here's like a normal dark elf guard.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you got it in first person better. Okay, there we go.
I personally think that the Dunmer seem to have a very like Filipino style to their design. Of like,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The Filipino people are an offshoot of the Untumbans as well. So this actually makes sense that there's an Untumban influence. And for those of you that don't know, watching this, they're Proto-Japanese people and Chinese people. And also on Untumba itself, some of them merged with the fairy DNAs that were there as well. So there's fairies and all that have that Japanese-looking influence here as well. They kind of came with them in that way. So they evolved there on Tumba as well. Huh.
So now we're gonna go into the Ashlands, like the more like volcanic area of Morrowind. So same kind of architecture, but you're gonna have ash falls and volcanic environment.
Okay, that's like Solstheim essentially, almost. Yeah.
What is that blasted lizard?
Yeah, there's like lava rivers. Shrines all over the place. Like, this is the Morrowind that most players would feel at home.
Oh, that they would remember it. Yeah.
This
Yeah.
is a lot how Morrowind was like in Morrowind the game.
Ah. Okay.
Then we will head to. Actually, I'm gonna swap characters real quick.
Why did some of those people have orbs that were around them?
I don't know.
Like-
It's some cosmetic item.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's I don't know. That or it's for
Okay.
quest. Yeah, that.
Oh,
or they're-
okay.
I'm gonna swap characters because I didn't realize this guy hasn't been all over the place as much as I thought he had. I have a lot of memories of playing this character, so I'm surprised that he hasn't been all over the place. But I know this guy's been everywhere because this was my original character from like when the game.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the Spartan looking one. Yeah.
In fact, that little monkey that was off to the side, that
Yeah.
was because I played in the beta before the game even came out.
You played in the what?
Beta, like the original release for the game.
Oh yeah. Okay. What does the monkey do? Does he do anything?
It just runs around and follows.
Oh, okay. So he's pretty much useless then. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
he's definitely useless. It's like a cosmetic piece.
Oh, okay.
Okay, great. My abilities still aren't working for some reason.
Maybe because you took out all those add-ons.
Well, I'm hitting the keys that they're bound to. It's just not working.
Hmm.
Do I have to reassign them? That might be what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. You're riding a lion around. Hmm.
Yeah, I am.
Has a battle cat type of vibe, He-Man vibe to it. Yeah.
No, there's one that's like an undead lion. It's kind of cool looking.
Hmm.
Come on, game, load.
Oh, that word that popped up, Deshan, it's very similar to Dershin. There was a world in Cassiopeia that's very similar. That's also where some of these DNAs came from too, or merged with too. So, that's interesting.
Dragons in your own homeland. What are you going to do?
This one does not know.
Oh, yeah, I do have to reassign everything.
Oh man.
I'll do that quick so I'm not, like, dead every time that I do stuff.
That would be inconvenient. So yeah. I wonder why you have to reassign it. That's weird.
Probably because they changed so much that they were like, okay, we'll give you everything that you need to be. Yeah, like they reset all my skill points, which means likely some big changes happened to the game
Mm-hmm.
that made things not like as cohesive as they once were. So
Oh, so they just decided to reset everything. Yeah, that's a little inconvenient. But,
yeah, they used to do this a lot back in the day. I didn't know they did. I have over 200 skill points right now.
oh god. Trying to remember everything you had before, yeah.
Yeah, and well, I really had rapid maneuver. Remember, I was a master black.
What race is this guy of yours?
A Nord.
The Nord? Okay. There we go.
I just need to find the way shrine. Oh, I'm near it. See if I can get to a alien ruin. Show off one of those, because those have a cool look to them that I really like. Not try. Oh yeah. Let's go. Alliance War. Because it looks like I'm winning this war.
Your what is poor?
Like the war, it shows
Oh,
how many
wow.
people are online in there,
Mm-hmm.
and it looks like my alliance has the most, so I should be able to move relatively safely throughout Cyrodiil right now.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good.
Man, I haven't played this game in so long. Oh no, this is set up as a place for us to do PvP. Okay.
To do what?
Do person versus environment battle, like so it's so you don't have to be in combat with other people.
Oh, okay.
Like it's saying that like only Ebonheart Pact people will be allowed to play on this server, which is good because that's what I am. This is Cyrodiil, the Heartland, so the aliens used to like live and roam these lands. I'm trying to get to one of their like major ruins.
Okay.
There's a fortress that you can actually like capture and control for different factions.
Okay.
In fact, I think the place I want to go is like down here, so I can actually I should be able to travel using that fortress. I'm surprised at how even this is.
Mm-hmm. Oh, how split it is. Oh, how balanced it is.
Yeah, how balanced it is, considering the amount of people online on this right now. What's that? I'm trying to use the transit system. Which is, oh, here it is.
What?
I know that they exist. I just don't know where they are. This town. Oh, there's one.
No. You got a creature following you there. Oh,
Little
yeah.
goblin.
Yeah.
I'm moving fast enough where it shouldn't be able to catch up.
Yeah.
After a while, it'll get bored and turn around.
Okay. Yeah, I do that in games too if I don't want to battle.
Oh no, this is just a giant hole.
Oh. He just found a large hole. That's it. Okay.
I assumed that. Jesus. Yeah, that's where.
What are you looking for? A temple?
An alien ruin.
Oh, alien ruin. Okay.
I'll be able to see the White Gold Tower soon. That's the real alien ruin for this area. I just don't want to run into other players.
Oh yeah, because they try to fight you and all that. Yeah.
You know.
Why did it flip the game off?
I just hit the wrong button.
Oh, okay.
You know,
I always hated playing with a keyboard. I always liked the controller.
Yeah, I'm not used to playing this game with a controller, so I. Oh shit, there's a battle going on right there. Run away, run away. Ah, this is a dolmen site. Built in an alien ruin. Okay. Yeah, this is a site where, like, there's an event in the world space, but it's built inside the ruins of a castle that the aliens built.
Oh, okay. One built on top of the other. That's usually classic to how ancient structures were done. Yeah.
Now I have to go this way. I need to go north towards, like, the one safe area around here for me to go to. Oh, and this is an alien well.
Oh yeah, those regenerate your health and magic and everything. Yeah.
Yep. way where they actually capture star energy, and that's how they do it.
Kept your what?
They capture like the energy of the stars and like the elements.
Oh, okay. Yeah, those type of technologies do exist where they can capture starlight like that and use it and transmute and replicate stuff with it. So that actually is a true thing. The Elven technology is very geometrically based, but it's also very elementally based, where they can capture starlight and capture elemental energies and everything, and reuse them and repurpose them to heal or for weapons. So that's true. At least from what I've seen, anyway. They even have weapons that are solid that are like almost like bladed lightsabers that capture light energies and starlight energies too in solid form as well. All elf variations have something like that. And like their weapons look like almost like ice crystals, like the Lancaneer blades look like carved ice. The same thing with some of the Syrians. Yeah.
They tell me you brought the Nords, Argonians, and Dunmer together to defeat Balreth.
So now we'll go to the Somerset Isle.
Okay.
Find the region's main city. And instantly you can see a very different architectural style.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's more the Gothic-esque look in a way. Yeah.
Yep. North. Maybe we'll go up to that dell. We'll check it out. Oh, then they're this area. Right there is a high elf, but it's a player. That's another player. There's one eating bread.
You're no sailor. I can tell by the smell.
Oh, there's a guard.
You saved the Queen. Stars keep you safe, traveler.
Yeah, he saved the queen.
Yeah, you don't remember doing it. This is so long. Yeah.
This was like
Excuse me,
2013.
please. I have a message.
Oh my god.
What is this?
Somebody set up a portal. Yeah.
Yeah. To Malab Tor. Oh. That's cool. I didn't know they added this to the game.
Huh. Yeah. Well, it's been a while since you've been in here, so yeah. What's this place?
It transported me all the way to, like, a whole other area of the world.
Huh.
Like,
Well, that's interesting.
I think this is... Yeah, this is northern, Valenwood.
Hmm. Yeah, I figured because of the forest, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. You just happened to run across that portal. Oh.
Yeah, that's something new. Oh, what? Hello? Oh no, you're with this person. Okay. I thought you were an enemy.
Hmm. Yeah, and the elves have high portals technologies like that too, where they're inside trees or they're inside rock arches and such. Hmm. There's some gray-like races that have elemental stuff too, but they're very rare.
I ended up in someone's house. When I went back through the portal, so
So now you got to find a way out of here from another angle.
looks like there's a shrine near here that I can use to transport myself. Oh yeah, it's right here. Wow, that was convenient.
Oh, was that a guard? Or
No, it's just some guy, but that technically committed an illegal act.
can you fast travel to any of these lands, or do you have to find a portal?
You have to go through like these shrine things.
Okay.
So like here I am back in the Somerset Isle,
Okay.
which I am surprised how fast it loaded. It normally doesn't do that.
How fast? What?
How fast it loaded in the new region. Normally it used to take minutes.
I remember that when I first played this game. It was pretty lengthy. Yeah.
Yeah, now it's just like seamless.
The hell?
I'm fighting ghosts.
Yeah.
Those were like high elf ghosts.
Hmm. There's a bunch of them here.
Yeah, I feel like I always get like a mix between like the Japanese forest and like this just high fantasy world here.
Yeah, that's how. Yeah, in Japan, a lot of the little side forests and everything look a lot like that. So when we would walk through the wilderness areas, yeah, or temple areas.
Nope.
Uh-oh.
I was just doing nonsense.
Death recap. Okay.
Hold there! Be civil and pay your bounty. It is the proper thing to do. Thank you for your timely payment. Good to see you.
These people even sell anything, and they're paying the weekly up thing to have stuff in this store, and they're not.
Yeah, they're not even selling anything. They're paying the rent for the slot. Yeah.
I've got just what you need.
You have anything, or do people just not selling these anymore? They're selling anything in here.
Wonder why that is.
This used to be a really fun like part of the game. Is like seeing what the guilds were selling.
Oh, now they don't have anything.
That's an orc. Oh, there's an Aldmeri Dominion like camp. Oh, you're a player.
The Artificer was wise to trust you. Just another reason to admire him.
Without your help, the tale of Onderwin in Esduin would have gone very differently, I think. Good luck in your travels.
I can't wait for the chance to present this to the Council. With Onderwin, of course. Velast and I will have much to discuss.
Sorry, I had it muted. Were those Aldemer?
Yeah.
Okay.
This one is glad someone was able to get the situation under control.
Thank Oriel you showed up.
I like how you can just grab a butterfly. No.
Estri has outdone herself this time. So many amusements.
To show one of the coolest things about is it in this film? No, I don't think it's in this one. No, it's not in this one. I'm looking for a specific city. Keep forgetting where it is up there. City? It's like a big... tree,
What are you looking for?
a big tree that the one group uses as a city.
Okay.
Because the wood elves aren't allowed to like use things that you like to cut down trees and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They use magic to build cities and like change how a tree grows.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, you can redirect to how a plant grows. There's several ET races that can actually train plants to form spaceships and form structures and all that. I believe the Lyrans, that was a good example of them earlier on with the Khajiit people, the cat people. They can do things like that, form domes and stuff like that. The elves can do the same. They can form cities with trees, and also how they do with the mushrooms as well. So they actually can. There's also a reptilian race called the Terrans. They're very rare. They can actually make plant-based vessels that can fly through space. So they were once an elemental race that became galactic, and they learn. And there's also another one called the Ulan. They can or Ulan, excuse me, that actually create these metallic tree vessels that it's powered by an internal star or singularity they have within that powers that is absorbed by the metallic plants, which then re-empower the ship so they can use replication technology and weapons and shields and all that other stuff and fly. Yeah, so there's that's actually possible. What the hell? Oh.
That's a wood elf. Guard. Who's in my... Wait, who sent me mail? Alright.
What happened?
I got mail, which is like free stuff.
Well, that's interesting. Oh.
Pass, friend.
It looks like a rock golem type of thing, you know. There are also magical constructs that were rock golems that the Jewish people came up with many, many years ago, ancient, and they became their own rock species after one of many. That would be a show in and of themselves, but they became that from a conjuring. They became their own sentient race after a while.
You see how
they were
like,
left alone, huh?
You can see how they like manipulate trees to build these like houses.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, that can actually be done by some of these woodland elementals, and also the gnomes do this very thing as well.
Supplies for the
Some
seasoned
gnome
traveler.
races.
I brought everything to the celebration. Well,
Well?
Oh, so these are Bosmer?
Yeah. That's like he's like a great example. He's super short.
Is it time for feasting yet? I'm starving. Yes, but I've been waiting to hear the musicians. When they showed up in Sylvanar, there was some trouble with the Hound. Maybe he doesn't like music. They told you? You've talked to them? These are some of the most famous musicians in Malabal Tor, and you know them? Can you introduce me? No, wait, I'd be too embarrassed.
I don't know what everyone is so upset about. This is our big opportunity. Yes, we still... Yes!
It's just funny how you grab bugs and insects and you go, that's mine, you know. Oh God.
So that is sort of like the Wood Elven cities.
Okay. That's interesting. We have like a cathedral one that goes up. Yeah, that's interesting with that.
Good work, friend. I return to my slumber. Their deaths are only the beginning of their torment. I'll see to that.
Spirits remain in ours. We'll give them a warm welcome.
So yeah, that's kind of the entirety of the elven places that I can go to with this character.
Okay. Yeah, you showed good examples of what they look like and everything. So yeah, oh, it's good.
I'm just trying to stop the share while I close it.
All right. There we go. Yeah, that was actually very interesting. Yeah, it worked pretty smoothly. So Yeah, I could probably take it up from this point. Is there anything you wanted to add before I ended the show, Ryan?
Oh no, just everybody have a good holidays. Stay safe.
And Merry Christmas, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this. This was recorded on 11/30/21, but it'll be made available just before Christmas time. So thank you, everybody, and bye-bye now.
See ya.
Hello. I wanted to add on to the end of the show you just saw, the Christmas episode with Ryan. We were talking about elves and the section about orcs. The beings that I was referring to in that are talked about on our Patreon channel. I talked with the Galactics, and they were a race called the Laboricans. And the day I did the recording, you'll hear it. It's on our Patreon. You'll hear it. It was an audio one that I did, and it was a hawk that flew overhead. And I only normally do that when I'm being warned. I felt that what the being was saying was at least semi-truthful, but at the same time, I was being warned of its presence now that I think about that, because the hawk that was flying so close. And I saw it come up, this being come up out of the floor of my mother's house to come talk to me. And first I was creeped out because of how he looked, but looked like one of the pig guards from Star Wars, but Return of the Jedi. But like the hawk was warning me, and that's how it was with Simeon all those years, where he was trying to make it seem like he was the bringer of the hawk. He was not. And very recently, there's a painting that I received as of today that was of the hawk. That also helped with this download. And it's a powerful painting done by artist Marianne Reese, who sent it. We got it as of today. So that and a card. And it's a picture. It's a picture or a painting of a hawk that's kind of just staring at you. I'll put a picture of it right here in the recording. And whenever we see this, it's a form of a validation of a guardian or a spirit animal that's always been around. And nature, true benevolent nature, true uncorrupted nature, you can trust, even over the being that was mentioned in this recording. Beings, the Laboricans, those pig ones. And I know there's another form of orc that I haven't run into, as the Galactics were saying in this, that they just don't want any contact, and they're the ones exactly like in the games. The other one was more of this etherical one that any of them can go either way. They can't 100% be trusted. There's benevolence and malevolence in all these races, mixed. Bad intentions, good intentions. That's why the hawk was warning in that recording. But go to our Patreon. Look for a talk with the Galactics, the Laboricans. It's a short audio one. You'll see when they came through what was going on with that, and you'll figure the whole picture out there. So it was an interesting talk, but yeah, this was a very, very beautiful painting done, and now is associated with the show, but also associated with not only nature warning you of danger, but also protecting, but at the same time a loving and kind energy. So a shout out to Marianne Reese for the painting. So I'll keep it in this. It'll be in the recording. I'll take a nice picture of it, or one good one if I can get for this, which probably won't do it justice. It's going to hang in the office where it belongs, because that's where all the channelings are done. So I will end this here. It is 6 o'clock or 6 p.m. Wednesday, December 1st, 2021. Thank you.